your operator.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.
Good morning and welcome to this week's edition of The Mediator with me, your host, Brian West, here to give you the top 8 headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Now, as usual, give you the top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made it first, followed by a movie clip, a skit, a trailer, or something that's going on in the community, or maybe some pictures. And then I'll give you the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made it, folks. So let's waste no time. Oh, yeah. Happy Dr. King Day. Let's get to it. Story number 1. Youngstown gets new buses. Youngstown City School District will get 15 new clean school buses, which will come from the federal infrastructure law. Overall, this appears to have everything to do with the climate change battle rather than schools' needs. The funding is close to $1 billion and will provide funding for about 2,300 buses to invest in electric vehicle and alternative fueled buses. They say that this will prevent asthma and all types of other chronic disorders. Now, this is still there's still a lot of opposition when it comes to the electric vehicle push. Story number 2. A program for home ownership. Reporter Davis Skolnick has a piece published January 11th about how the state is planning a savings program that encourages home ownership in Ohio through an effort that offers increased interest savings rates. I'm going to say that right. Now, according to the article, the program is called Home Buyers Plus, and it will allow those at least who participate at least 18 years, they could be at least 18 years of age to put money into a savings account that accrues two kinds of interest, one from the financial institution and one from the state. Now, according to the article, the accounts can have as little as $100 and up to $100,000, which includes some tax requirements. The program will also take care of closing costs and down payments. The program does have a lot of strings attached, though, and the article is filled with ARP funding information as an incentive that has already been spent on other housing programs. Story number 3. Youngstown election. It's election time. Another election season has the Mahoning County still in the debate about voter fraud. Strother seems to be at the center of this debate headed into another election season and another national election season, if you want to add a little bit more icing on the cake. Now, such allegations have led to gerrymandering allegations and some politicians not even showing up in some districts when it comes to challenging when they're asked to challenge someone for a debate. This happened in Youngstown with Democrats waiting for Republicans, and this is what we get. We now get this in this as a topic. Now, whatever the case, the pressure is on not only uninformed voters, but what some activists see as a flawed system designed to rig votes. That includes Democrats too. They're saying Democrats have been feasting off of uninformed voters. Folks, this goes two ways. Republicans not showing up to debates and Democrats going after votes. Republicans do the same thing. They're even accusing Republicans of gerrymandering. Story number 4. How safe are we during the winter? How safe are we from winter shootings to animal cruelty and even fires? After 2 people were found dead in Warren on an early Sunday morning house fire, safety remains a hot topic. Now, fire crews were called out to a 2-story residential wooden structure in the 800 block of Miller Street Southwest, where 2 adults apparently died. Now, what got the story in is the constant push for safety and the questions of could a lot of these fires, especially that's been making most recent headlines, have been prevented. Story number 5. Stewart Health in the headlines. Ron Selleck Jr. has a piece out of Warren stating that Stewart Health Care System owes about $50 million in back rent. Steward Health has operated hospitals in 8 states, including Ohio and Pennsylvania. The article goes on to explain how the situation is being handled, thus making this a developing story. Number 6, we're talking local money. Overtime payments in Youngstown kept city council members busy. And an overworked society burdened with high prices, 14 city workers made local headlines because of overtime pay. The entire Vindicator report by David Skolnick informs readers on how hard city officers have been working to protect and serve. But this is not the case in just Youngstown. Our recent data shows that public workers across the country have been swimming in the overtime bubble. There are pros and cons to this story though, but at the moment some people are mainly focused on if this has been effective or not. So when the data comes in, they'll see, did murder rates go down? Did crime stop? Story number 7 and the top 2 local headlines and developing news stories that made it in on Dr. King Jr. Day, Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Folks, story number 7. The sports betting update. Speaking of some issues. Now, Mason Cole has a report published January 7th. Some people choose to gamble. I don't. On Hollywood gaming, he has a piece and how $847,928,126 of taxable revenue was brought into the state from sports gambling through November of 2023. Wow. With $6 million of that taxable revenue being brought in by Austintown's Hollywood gaming. Now, why many parts of America have become obsessed with gaming remains a mystery, but this story has remained in circulation because of a growing wave of gambling addictions that have been taking place. Story number 8 on the top, local headline and developing news story that made its week on the Dream Day, Martin Luther King. Ooh-wee! Big day for a lot of people who celebrate Dr. King's legacy, his lifelong dream. That's the speech that resonates through so many people's airwaves for years. I mean, I remember when I first heard of Dr. King story, I was very inspired by it. We celebrated it in school. We used to sing the song, "We shall overcome, we shall overcome someday." Big question, have we overcome? Story number 8. Lots of friction at YSU. Oh, speaking of overcome, a lot of stones being thrown at Bill Johnson. Now, from arts programs being cut to the protests of the university's selection of Bill Johnson, YSU has stayed in the headlines. 100 students gathered on campus streets to protest the school's decision to cut programs and lay off faculty from various programs, including the highly regarded Dana School of Music. How do you do that? The jazz programs. Oh my God, and I'm an art fanatic. This story is still developing. I love music, and they just chop it down. Maybe I'll go up there and hang out, get me a swing set, and maybe grab me a few signs, folks. Well, folks, I do love the sounds of music. We shall overcome someday. Bill Johnson will be president. We shall overcome someday. Well, folks, those are our top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made this week. I'll be right back with the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories. So don't you go anywhere. You're on the Mediator with me, Brian West. I'll be right back.
Tune in and don't forget to subscribe to Method 8 Inc. YouTube channel. You can also watch free public entertainment. And don't forget to show some support by visiting www.method8inc.com by buying something, clicking something, watching something, or just reading something. You can also sponsor a program as well. That's www.method8inc.com. Buy stuff, watch stuff, or read stuff.
What does Method8inc.com Media Center have that I need?
Small prints,
event consulting, photography, business consulting, technical consulting, entertainment consulting, fundraising advice, event videography, movies, news, publishing, media, books, entertainment, acting, broadcasting, public relations, access to the visual and performing arts, ink and black ink refills, audio recording, graphic design, theater, minor computer and cell phone repair, and they're located at 5648 Market Street in Boardman, Ohio from 10 a.m. until 6 p.m. every Monday through Friday. The list goes on and on.
Method8inc.com. Buy stuff, watch stuff, or read stuff.
Oh yeah! And yes, we are chipmunks.
Living, you love me. Dying, you save me. Buried, you carried my sins all away. Rising, you justify. With me forever. One day he's coming back. What a glorious day. Send it on down, Lord. Send it on down, Lord. Lord, let your Holy Ghost come on down. Send it on down, Lord. Send it on down, Lord. Lord, let your Holy Ghost come on down. Hey.
Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made this week, folks, on Dr. King Day. Dr. King Jr., the man who was assassinated in Tennessee, brings a lot of questions, about the American dream. What was this vision all about? White folks and black folks joining hands, and people wonder about this dream today. The chronicles of mediation continue. Was the dream to have babies' mamas, dramas, to be living in society where you don't know who to trust, where there's 17 million babies aborted in not only African American communities, but the dream was a collective dream. Was the dream to be this way? There is positive though, but we have to focus on the negative because the negative sometimes outweighs the positive. I had a friend who she refused to give up on her American dream. There was a show back in the day called Cash Explosion, and we were fussing. Well, I don't know if you gonna be the one for me. I don't have enough time. You're calling me every day. So I went out to play basketball. I come home, everything is gone. She come back with a box of Cheerios and some milk. And I look at her, I say, what is this? It is over. I'm taking you to your mama's house and this is over. So a little bit of time passes by. I look on the news. She getting in fights with the cops, choking them. And then after a while, she ended up on Cash Explosion and won about $50 million. She didn't know what to do with all this money. She was not educated enough. Brenda's got a baby. So we all remember that. She ended up getting pregnant. And her life turned out to be in redemption mode. But when she won this $50 million, she came over to me screaming, well, this is what you get for leaving me. Now this karma and all, drama everywhere. The whole street is outside listening to her at my doorstep. And I'm tired. I got to get up for work. And I say, this girl had gone crazy. But this is the new American dream. Come to find out, she blew all that money on her habits, her boyfriend. She didn't know what to do with it. Folks, this Martin Luther King Day, I'm going to sing a song. Deep in my heart, I do believe that we shall overcome someday. Listening to stories about madness and the American dream. Well, let's waste no time, folks. The Great Society is still alive. There's positive in the story, but right today, this story, we focused on some negative and some positive. Let's get to it. Story number 1, the computer hero. Computers have changed every aspect of our lives and have been a game changer in the field of business. Fox Business has a piece focusing on how AI is being used to catch more child predators. Now, what got the story in are the continued achievements and advancements being made when it comes to the implementation and usage of technology. Thus, getting story number 1 into the top 8. Big hit. Story number 2. Debt is only bad if you cannot pay it back. Marketplace has the latest figures on rising consumer debt. The piece says that debt levels are rising and interest rates remain high. But that is not what got this story in. Delinquencies are also on the rise. The report goes on to explain how consumer credit has also jumped a whopping $23.7 billion in November. So on an annual basis, credit card debt rose more than 17%. The key stat is the fact that credit card interest rates are the highest that they've ever been. Debt is not bad though, folks, but if people cannot pay it back, that could be bad. But at the moment, economists are paying close attention to these stats to see how America gets out of the debt pit. Big hit. Story number 3, the economic expectations. Axios says that United States inflation expectations are coming back down to normal. This story is filled with good numbers that a lot of people have been anticipating when you talk about inflation, the inflation battle. Folks, this story is still developing because more data is coming in. That's why story number 3 made it this week. Story number 4, U.S. banks are riding the wave. Reuters has a piece stating that U.S. banks are bracing for souring loans. Now, the entire report focusing on how banks are preparing for the worst due to low profits for the fourth quarter after they set money aside to cover souring loans. Now, the report goes on to say that they paid more to depositors to try to even this. They paid more to depositors. Now, 10% is the profit loss according to Goldman Sachs. A 15% decline in trading revenue was also mentioned in the report. So they paid out more to depositors. If that means that the people who are getting the money are putting the money in the bank. Now, banks have stayed in and out of the headlines due to a few bank failures in 2023. I'm sure we all remember them. But as of now, they're still riding the wave while keeping their members informed as much as possible about the ups and downs. Now, Reuters also has a piece referring to the discount window. 2 articles keeping people up to date on banking, on the banking wave. These are just 2 of them. I'm pretty sure there'll be more coming out, folks. Well, folks, those are our top 4 international headlines and developing news stories that made this week. I'll be right back with the top 4. So don't you go anywhere. In the Mediator with me, Brian West. I'll be right back. Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 4 international headlines and developing news stories that made this week on Dr. King Day. Martin Luther King Day. Folks, we're going to continue this saga of what was the dream actually about. Was the dream to see a lot of Americans strung out on drugs, financially burdened because they cannot kick their bad habits, of all races? Was a dream about wealthy churches, reverends, living lavish lives, some even engaging in secular activity while their communities struggle to get over the hump? Was the dream to see prisons packed with labor, unfortunate people? Folks, what was the dream? Oh boy, what was the dream? Well, I'll sing a song. We shall overcome someday. Deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome war, division, hatred, jealousy, strife someday, folks. Well, for all races, creeds, and colors. Let's waste no time. Let's get to these top four. Let's get to it. Story number 5. The airline shakeup. Anytime Boeing has to ground flights, that is not good news, folks. This is after a report in Business Insider says that Alaska Airlines cockpit voice recorder data was lost during a flight 1282, that's the flight number. About 20 minutes into the air, a door plug was blown. I guess it was blown out of the door, shooting the story into the top headlines. So plug blew out a door and must have blew it open. Now, what still has this story trending is the delay in finding out the cause due to the lack of data from the recorder. This story is still developing. That's why story number 5 made it this week. Story number 6, the vacancy problem. Business Insider says that America's offices have entered uncharted territory as vacancies have hit record numbers. Vacancy rates have hit a record 19.6%. The piece goes on to say that the surge represents the steepest quarterly rise since 2021. This matters because investments in office buildings will shift, causing a ripple effect in business, real estate plans. Folks, this is happening even with good economic numbers. This story is still developing. That's why story number 6 almost made it to the top 2 this week. Big headline. Story number 7 and the top 2 international headlines and developing news stories that made this week on Martin Luther King Day. We must see civility and we must get to the mountaintop. I have a dream that one day the people will come to reason with reality of the code of ethics and civil law with dignified men and women who will live in a dignified society. Is America still dignified? In some areas it is, some areas it isn't, it's not. Some areas there's poverty, some areas there's wealth. But the fact is are we living the dream that Dr. King had this holiday? Story number 7. Is it bad in Gaza right now? Yes, it is. It's very bad. 300-mile tunnels have been discovered, along with missiles, they say, in Gaza, somewhere around that area. I'm pretty sure I seen the story. If I read it correctly, I'm sure I got it right. And a British surgeon says that Gaza is beyond the worst thing he's seen in his career. This is a fact. The report goes on to say that Jordan's King warns that Israel is creating a generation of orphans. When reading the CNN report, folks, is very sad on how this strife has evolved over time with no solutions on both sides. The carnage is what is keeping the story in the headlines. Carnage in a world already suffering does not equal anything good, folks. This story will stay alive in hopes that heroes are made on each side. Heroes that will hopefully make the future better. Maybe we will even get some heroes as good as Dr. King. Maybe some people will find a better dream or a better way to live the dream. Big hit. Story number 8 and the top international headline and developing news story that made this week on a day where we celebrate a man who died with a big heart. He has some flaws. Yes, the FBI did recover some footage, but the fact is the man had a heart. And in this situation, he used nonviolence, he used ethics, he was dignified, and he had a lot of just courage to be able to try to face on not only inequality and some working laws, but segregation at a time where the world did not know that much about civil law and civil obedience. So this day we celebrate. It reminds us of our own selves that we too have to sacrifice. Some of us have to sacrifice for the greater good of others. And if Dr. King would have lived a long life, who knows what his story would be, how his story would be told today. But he did live a life where he went to the death believing that what he was doing was right. Some psychologists may say he had a disorder, but I think there was something more. I think there was the vision of people to not only get right, but to sacrifice that was made will always be remembered to get right, folks. So if one man can do it, man, I'm sure we all can. Story number 8, hard times for the education system. Dr. King believed in education. Chicago Sun-Times has a headline stating that up to 77,000 school computers were either lost or stolen last year. What got the story in is the fact that the computers were paid for with COVID-19 money. Now, the 74 has an article with a headline stating that thousands of schools are at risk of closing due to enrollment loss. Both pieces show how hard of a time it has been to enforce and carry out academic plans post-COVID-19. That's after COVID-19. Now, Vox News also has a piece reporting on how bad attendance has been because of COVID-19. The ripple effect, folks. This story is still developing, and at a time when we should be taking pride in our freedoms, in our wealth, in our greatness, we are still facing some tough times of sorrow. So let's hope that Dr. King's day inspires us to be better and gives us a little bit of oomph in our step to be grateful and to believe in the dream that is alive in us, folks, if we believe in it. Well, folks, those are our top 8 local and international headlines and developing news stories that made this week. I hope you got something out of today's program. I always get something out of doing the research. As usual, I'd like to thank all the news outlets, the journalists, the people on the front lines. You deserve all the credit. I am just a mediator, the little bitty man who has nothing else better to do at this time but navigate the stories just to keep people informed. News stories. Yes, I am a news junkie, folks. A little nasty little man trying to be an impact on the world. I'm not nasty. I just have habits like everybody else, but I'm fighting those habits in the greatness of Dr. King. I'm a man, and I seem to love smiling and hugging women and making them smile and giving them gifts, even with my single life. Well, folks, I'm out here. I'll be back next week looking through over 200 or more stories just to keep you informed. I hope I gave you something to smile about this holiday. I am out here. Have a good week, everybody. Thank you for tuning to the Mediator this week with me, Brian West. I cannot forget, if you want to contribute to the show, please feel free to visit the website on the screen, buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or to sponsor a program, or stop at the store at 5648 Market Street. I am out here in Boardman, Youngstown, Ohio. Peace.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.